What's going on, guys? I'm joined by Jody Norstedt. He's a first-time winner of the award for sportscasting from North Dakota, which is awesome. Jody is an on-air talent for Midco Sports Network. He's a host of Varsity Sports Live and North Dakota Varsity Sports Update. He also works as a sideline reporter for North Dakota State University basketball. And again, like I said, this is his first time winning the award, so it's very, very exciting. So, Jody, what was your career path like on your way to where you are now? Did you always know that you wanted to do sportscasting or broadcasting? Did you always know you wanted to be in the sports media industry? What was your trajectory like?
Well, thanks for having me on, first off,
Of course.
Sahil, and I appreciate you doing all these interviews with the winners. It's been cool to watch some of them.
Awesome. Man.
But yeah, it's interesting. I my hometown newspaper just did an article on me and was asking me kind of the same thing. Where did this bug start for sportscasting? And I trace it back to actually dirt track racing. My dad would take me and my brother, and we'd watch, and the PA announcer was going nuts, calling these dirt track races and thinking, man, I want to be like that guy someday. So me and my brother, when we were little, we would take our Hot Wheels cars and race them down a treadmill, but we'd do play-by-play for them. And we'd have names for all the cars. So that's maybe when the bug started. Then it was, something that a lot of us probably did when we were younger. Mute the TV on a football game or a video game that you're playing and do your own play-by-play just to see how you can do it. So it was more so just a dream. And I'd watching sportscasters in the 10 o'clock news. Mark Rosen at WCCO in the Twin Cities, who's now retired, looked up to him a lot and thought he, had one of the most incredible jobs, and was like, man, that'd be kind of cool to do someday. But then realistically, I thought there's no way I'd ever be able to do that because there's only a certain amount of jobs in the country. I mean, you have to live in a bigger city, and they only have maybe 3-4 television stations to work at. So I was like, okay, what can I do in sports and still kind of get that itch? So I was going to be a major in Phy Ed teaching and try to do some coaching. Went my first semester at St. Cloud State and realized I did not like the health teaching part of it. I just kind of wanted to do Phy Ed and play games and stuff like that. So I was like, well, let's give this, TV thing a try because this Phy Ed stuff just isn't working. And it turns out St. Cloud State has a heck of a program. So I got great opportunities to do play-by-play, sideline reporting. We did a lot of broadcasts. We did a newscast 5 days a week where I got to anchor sports. So got great experience at St. Cloud State, got my broadcast journalism degree, an internship in Fargo, then a full-time job coming out of college in Grand Forks, North Dakota, which is about an hour north of Fargo. Worked there for 3 years at WDAZ. Then went to WDAY, the sister station, and worked there for about 7-8 years. And then made the move to Midco Sports Network, which was based in Sioux Falls, but has now added offices in Grand Forks and West Fargo. So fortunate to be with the company and fortunate to really be in a place that I've come to call home in North Dakota.
That's awesome. Cause like you explained, it feels like it kind of came full circle, right? Cause as a kid, you were kind of doing it, like you were doing it without actually doing it. And, you talked about how like you were inspired by the guys that did it. Like, of course, like it's interesting because a lot of people in this industry, like where like most people, and of course we all love the sports and the sports aspect of it and the players and stuff, but it's crazy how equal of an impact like a sportscaster or someone can have on like us watching the games or wanting to watch the games. Because of course, like if you love a team, like growing up, I'm a huge Yankees fan, so I would watch all the Yankees games. But equal to wanting to watch the players play was wanting to hear like Michael Kay speak, and that was like the coolest thing ever. So I definitely could relate to that, and that's awesome. So in your current role or in your career in general, what is the part that gives you the most satisfaction? It could be tangible, intangible. What is your favorite part about the job?
Favorite part about the job right now, I mean, my role is covering primarily North Dakota high school sports and kind of giving it that big stage I feel that high school sports deserves. When I grew up, there was no newspaper, no TV reporter out of my games in Southwest Minnesota. So these kids are pretty lucky, but so that's my kind of my main part is is kind of showcasing these kids, and it's a lot of fun. It's where the passion is at its best. I mean, these high school kids just want to represent their school and have fun, and so I really enjoy that. We also have a show called Midco Mag, which does stories that kind of, uplifting stories, encouraging stories. I've done a story on a woman that's both deaf and missing one arm,
Wow.
a single arm amputee, and she's a bodybuilder. And
Wow.
so doing cool stories like that. Just did a story on a kid from White Shield, North Dakota. An outstanding basketball player, has scored over 2,300 career points in high school. And he was born with just a thumb on one hand, and the rest are just nubs on his fingers. And this kid's going to be one of the highest scorers in North Dakota history. So being able to share stories that impact people, I think is one of those points of pride. And on top of all the cool stuff we get to do too, because I've covered some really cool events. Carson Wentz, NDSU, former NDSU quarterback that's now playing for the Eagles. And obviously things are a little bit tricky with him, but Trey Lance, another NDSU quarterback, is going to be drafted high. So covering those events are pretty sweet too.
Awesome. Yeah. And like you said, you, when I interview a lot of, of the people who won this award, who are working in like smaller networks or more local, working in local sports, it's like one of the things they always talk about, like you spoke about, is like kind of giving the, the athletes like a voice, like you're like almost like a microphone for them to speak through, and they get to share their stories, stories we wouldn't get to hear otherwise. And like all the things you explained were incredible, and we wouldn't get the opportunity to hear it if it wasn't, for you and your work. But like giving those athletes a voice is like so important. Like you said, in high school, like there would barely, at my high school games, would barely be parents there, so like there was definitely no coverage. But that is amazing. So thus far in your career, and it could be the award, it could be something intangible as well. What do you consider to be the highlight of your career thus far?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, winning this award is obviously a huge, incredible honor. But I think it's those special things that you cover along the way, and the way you kind of earn it with earning the respect from your peers. I think that's kind of the coolest part of this whole award thing. As far as like maybe the coolest events that I've gotten to cover, when Carson Wentz, as I mentioned, was going through the NFL draft process, getting ready for that, I got to attend the NFL Combine.
Wow.
And so it's me from, small town Minnesota originally, and then moving to North Dakota, where I think, boy, am I ever going to cover any cool sports, any big sports stories.
Right.
Well, here I am at the NFL Combine, walking next to, guys like Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and all these big time guys that have their sets there. And you're within an arm's reach away from them, and you're asking questions side by side with these guys and GMs and coaches. So I think that was probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. And then I got to cover Carson's first game against the Cleveland Browns out in Philadelphia. And so there have been some really cool moments along the way, but that one maybe sticks out a little bit to me. On top of course, winning this honor, which is really important to me.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. Just being at the combine, seeing all those players, and like you said, like guys like Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, like you're there, you're probably like, oh my God, like this is incredible. But at the same time, it's kind of like you're their constituent, like you're their coworker in a sense. Like you're doing the same thing that they're doing, which is awesome. Off script, because I know you covered North Dakota sports. So what do you think is the right path for Carson Wentz right now? Where do you think he should stay with the Eagles? You think he should find a team elsewhere? Because I know like their new hire, the Eagles' new hire, was like apparently he wants to work with Carson Wentz. So what do you think is best? Because you know him very well, you've seen him, grow. What do you think?
Carson is a guy that it takes a lot of pride in what he does. And I think, he has that North Dakota background where, he wants to work hard, and he was obviously disappointed, frustrated that things didn't go well this season. And really he's kind of been snake bit his whole career with injuries at really the worst times. And then having Nick Foles go on and win a Super Bowl. I think initially when Carson got benched, I thought, if they can somehow work a trade to Indianapolis and he can be reunited with Frank Reich, who's
Right.
there with Carson in those early years and really got him to play his best, perhaps the best fit, right?
Right.
Now with this new coaching staff, though, I see it as an opportunity maybe for him to kind of mend some things. And I think that's maybe the way Carson would want to do it is I want to make things right. And I know that
Right.
he's done so much in the Philadelphia community. I mean, a guy that goes above and beyond as far as trying to serve the community, trying to serve others through his Audience of One Foundation. A guy with a big heart. And I hope, I just hope the best for him. And I think maybe now with this new coaching staff and leadership in Philadelphia, it'd be cool to see him kind of lift that organization back up, put it on his shoulders. And if they can surround him with some help, which has been frustrating too, because guys are falling apart all around him, and has probably led to him struggling, it'd be cool to see him kind of get back on track.
Yeah, awesome. I agree for the most part. I mean, I'm a Giants fan, so I don't want to see the Eagles good at all, but I do want to see Carson Wentz succeed because I do really like him. But back to you, Jody, because this is what this is all about. What is the best piece of advice you can give someone who's just entering this industry or thinking about getting into the industry, the sports media industry? What's the best piece of advice you could give someone like that?
I would say, work hard and put your head down and do what your bosses ask you to do. I think so many younger people that get into this are like, I'm going to be the greatest and I want to call all these games and do all this. Get the basics down. And I'm talking basics in everything, whether it's working with social media, which has become huge in our industry, working with editing, doing all the behind the scenes work, working on your play-by-play, your color. There's so many things that you need to start doing when you're younger. And obviously they're getting that experience in college too, hopefully, but really hone in on making yourself very diverse. And I think that's really important in our business to be able to do that. And then another thing, when you're starting out, don't be afraid to make connections, calling coaches, following up, building those relationships, because you never know if you're going to end up there for 1 year or you're going to end up there for 10 years. Like I've done here in North Dakota, where I thought I was going to keep hopping from market to market. Right. And here I am still, 13 years into my professional career, and I'm still in North Dakota. Right. So that's been a huge benefit for me, knowing the area as well as I do and being able to tap on coaches. Hey, how's this kid looking? Who's going to be the top recruit in this next class? So building connections is huge, and just not trying to do too much too early, because you kind of rub people the wrong way. And that's something that I wanted to do is make sure that my peers, the guys that are the veterans, whether it's sports writers, that you can work with and collaborate with, or your boss, your other sports directors around the area, making them feel like, okay, if I hire this guy, he's not going to want to step on my toes. He's going to want to just work hard and do the best that he can.
Right. And like you said, because in other interviews that when I ask a similar question, a lot of people respond like, don't be too picky with your first job, or don't be too picky with what you want, like what you're working on, because you got to get reps in, right? You like any and all reps are good. Getting that work in and just honing on your craft. And how do you feel about, and when you were just starting out in your professional career, how important is it for younger people or people just breaking into the industry to like ask for help from the people who have been doing it for years? Because it could be daunting for people new into the industry because they don't want to seem like they don't know what they're talking about. But how important is that? Because there is probably so much to learn from people who've been doing it for years.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one more thing I should have said it in response to your last question, is being open to criticism and not taking it to heart, because these thoughts that these veterans have, they're not telling you because they don't like you. They're telling you because they want you to get better.
Right.
So I think, seeking advice, do not be afraid to do that. I just had a guy reach out to Midco Sports Network a couple weeks ago, just, the guy's about to graduate in a handful of months and wanted to get some feedback on his tapes. And the guy's an incredible talent too. But I wish I would have done that a little bit more to try to get some feelers out there. Some guys aren't going to respond to you. Some guys are going to blow you off. And you know what? That's just inevitable. But some guys, you might hit on a few guys that are like, hey, you're doing a good job. And kind of work with you and help be your mentors in this business. And I think that's important to have. I had a lot of great leaders to look up to. My former sports directors are great mentors. One of them won this award last year, and one of them is about a 3 or 4 time winner. So having those resources is very important, and being open to criticism. I can't say it enough, because if you're not trying to get better in this business, even if you're a veteran, you got to be trying to get better in this business, because some of those veterans are now asking those younger guys, how do I tweet this?
Right.
How do I get this video uploaded from a sportscast? And
Right.
so it goes both ways too at that point.
It's a give and take. And like you said, when you were talking about, someone who reached out to you and asked for feedback on their tapes and stuff, with like the boom of social media and how prevalent social media is nowadays, it's like you have the ability to share and reach out to so many more people than you probably were able to when you were starting your career. So it's like take advantage of that almost, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. So those are all the questions I have for you, Jody. If you want to thank anyone before we head out of this interview, just want to thank you again for coming on and answering these questions. It was more than a pleasure. And yeah, you could go ahead and thank anyone you would like.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sahil, for doing this interview. Like I mentioned earlier, it's cool to see some of the other guys that are multiple time winners. I think I just watched a guy that was a 12-time winner of this award.
Yeah.
So, maybe someday, Lord willing, I'll get that opportunity, but
Right.
I'm just privileged to win this award once, because I know the names that have come before me just in the state of North Dakota that I really respect. My former boss, Patrick Sweeney at WDAZ, Dom Izzo at WDAY, Scott Miller is another guy that won this award that has since passed away, that was just a legend in North Dakota. So a lot of great guys that I'm kind of following the footsteps of. Got to thank my wife, of course, because and that's good advice too. I mean, find a wife that's ready to be in this for the long haul. I'm fortunate my wife was in TV news for a long time, and that's obviously how we met. So she understands, all right, Jody's going to be gone for a couple of days covering this sporting event or a couple of nights. There's so much sacrifice that your family makes. And now I have a 2-year-old son, same boat. I mean, dad's gone for a little bit at night, but it's been cool to work at Midcoast Sports Network, because our company provides us great flexibility, puts family first. And that's really cool as far as being a sports reporter, sports anchor, sports play-by-play guy, to have that opportunity to be with my family. So the sacrifice of my family and growing up, I mean, we missed a lot of holidays, and I'm sure, any sports anchor will tell you it stinks when you have to work on Christmas or Thanksgiving. So, and you'll never get those days back, but it's worth it, man, when you are able to do a job that's as fun as this, and really blessed that I've been able to get these opportunities, and blessed to be able to win this award. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you again, Jody. And congratulations. God bless you and your family. And I wish you guys the best.
All right. Thanks, Sahil. Appreciate it, man.
No problem.